Good morning. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Phone lines are open. I'm sure you guys have a lot to say after the developments last night with the Supreme Court decision. I'm sure you have a lot to say when it comes down to New Hampshire today, and I want you guys to chime in. We often say that, I'm here, Max here, Ken's here, but you are the most important voice on the show. Mm-hmm. The show is here for you, so please chime in. I'm actually really, really excited today. Well, I don't do guests too often, but when I do, I really want to make sure that they have like some really good stuff to bring to the table. And I got a couple guests coming in the 10 o'clock hour today, Jesse and Sarah Siegand, and they run an organization called Parents Who Fight. And it's not like, oh my gosh, mom and dad's fighting. It's about parents who are kind of throwing their hat in the arena of I'm sick and tired of big tech coming after our kids. And what can we do to fight against that? So we're going to be talking to them about the dangers of iPhones, the dangers of social media, how we can get around it. And we're going to have a great conversation. So excited, so proud of the work that these guys are doing. And I want to make you aware of them because they have this website, parentswhofight.com. It's a free resource for parents out there. And I know we have a lot of listeners who are also raising their grandkids and in different situations. And it's hard to find this info sometimes. So I'm really excited to have these conversations and also allow you to ask the questions that you want to ask. I've been texting with these people, and they're really excited to open phone lines, take questions, talk about the dangers of tech, talk about what we can do, alternatives, solutions, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be awesome. Very excited about that. And also very excited to take a break from, the politics for about an hour to talk about something more on the macro level. I mean, the micro level as opposed to the macro, where, this is something that you can do in your own life with your own kids, with your own grandkids to create that positive change that you want to see in the world. Because so often we see these big things coming down. The SCOTUS ruling, you see Hunter Biden's getting all of his Hunter Biden things. Joe Biden's doing Joe Biden things. Trump is doing Trump things. And it's like, well, what can we do? Well, oftentimes I feel like for me, one of the things that I'm doing, and it's the most important job I have, is raising my kids and trying to raise warriors in this culture. And even for someone like me, who I feel like I'm knee deep in it every day, trying to remain vigilant, it's hard. It's hard to stay on top of your grind with this kind of stuff. And I can only imagine if you're out there working a job much harder than I am, because I know, we're the number one show for truckers. Anecdotally, of course.
Yes, of course.
And I know, we got Dave in Hendersonville calling. There's always beeping in the background. People work much harder jobs than we work.
Yes.
So I can only imagine if you're also trying to raise kids while you're working those hard jobs, you come home, you're exhausted, and you just hit the sheets. You don't have time for that research, that education. So I'm really excited to bring that to the table, bring that resource to you, and also allow you to have that conversation with Parents Who Fight. It's going to be awesome. Very much looking forward to that. Also, I don't know if you heard, New Hampshire's happening today. Did you hear that?
What?
Yeah. I didn't know. It's the craziest
Caught
thing.
you off guard.
Whoa, that's today? No, but seriously, it is kind of crazy that it is the 23rd of January. Where did the month go?
Seriously.
I just thought we were in the, 2023.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Christmas was like a couple days ago.
Yeah, what?
What happened?
Very strange.
Very strange. So the election is tonight. It's happening right now. Jeez. See what I'm saying? I'm like, it's tomorrow. It's tonight. No, it's now.
It's literally happening.
I'm displaying exactly what I'm saying. It's like, it's here.
I mean, we're less than a year from the next president being sworn in, correct?
Hot dog, baby.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
You excited?
Heck yeah.
Bingo.
I mean, I'm pretty hype. Not going to lie to you. I'm hype. New polls are out.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Feed me, baby. What are the numbers? Let's go.
I love it. All right. So the Real Clear polling average has Trump up by 19 over Nikki Haley. 19.
But she's surging.
This is true.
We gotta mind the surge.
This is true. It's like you gotta mind the surge. The Boston Globe Suffolk poll has Trump at 60, Haley at 38, plus 22. Wow. Insider Advantage has Trump at 62, Haley at 35, Trump up 27. He's dunking on this woman. The Trafalgar Group, 58 to 36, up 22.
So, yeah, this is like MJ versus a bench warmer type thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
We're looking at MJ LeBron. It's like very easy to decide.
Very easy. Come on,
very
guys.
easy. Very easy to decide. WHDH TV in Emerson, in that area, that's Emerson College. It's I don't know. I don't want to say it's super liberal, but it's a college in the Northeast. You decide. They have Trump at 53, Haley at 37, and they have DeSantis in there at 10. Their polling was done a little bit early. So probably put that 10 over to Trump. We'll give Haley 1.
Yeah, give her 1.
Let's give Haley 1. So 62-38.
Exactly.
I feel like that's fair. She is surging.
Golly, that's blowout.
The lowest lead that Trump has is the CNN UNH poll. Shocker. They have Trump at 50, Haley at 39, DeSantis coming in at 6. So they have Trump at plus 11. If we apply the same math that we decided on the fly to that poll, Trump at 55, Haley at 40. Because we don't have the math. We just kind of decided on the fly. There's nothing really behind that. But he's dunking on her. He's dunking on her in every single poll. Meanwhile, nobody's really showing up for Nikki Haley other than Governor Sununu, who's probably going to be calling Trump this evening and, saying congratulations. Trump, on the other hand, he has a rally last night in Laconia, New Hampshire. Laconia, too. I've never been to Laconia, but they do a big biker week up there.
Oh, nice.
So growing up, a lot of my friends, uncles, dads were firefighters, so they would always go up to Bike Week.
Heck yeah.
And then I had another crew of friends who their uncles and dads were Hell's Angels. And
my gosh.
They would also go to Bike Week.
That's great.
Never went to Bike Week.
You never got to go, but you knew plenty of people.
I got invited with the Hell's Angels friends once, and my parents said, yeah, no.
No, we're not doing that for you. You can't do that.
Probably not a good idea. Said I'd be safe. I'd probably be pretty safe.
That's what, yeah, the bike weekends, I've known those for being extraordinarily safe.
Right? Nothing ever bad happens at Bike Week. What happens at Bike Week stays at Bike Week. So I wanted to go. You want to go? We should do the show live at Bike Week one year.
Yeah, that'd be sick. I'm in.
Right?
Yeah, it'd be great. I think Murphy would be jealous of us.
Who do we got to talk? We don't even have bikes.
We've never.
We should show up on like electric scooters. Exactly. We should steal a couple from downtown.
Yes.
Show up to Bike Week on electric scooters.
That'd be great.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, the dirty looks we'd catch.
We'd really set the standard for just people that shouldn't be at Bike Week.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so Trump is in New Hampshire last night. Everybody's rolling with Trump. Everybody. He's got Vivek Ramaswamy with him. He's got Doug Burgum with him. He's got Tim Scott. Tim Scott was on one last night. Did you see the Tim Scott stuff?
No.
He's not auditioning to be VP, you guys. He's not. He's auditioning to be hype man. That's what Tim Scott is auditioning for.
All right. If you want 4 more years of Donald Trump, let me hear you scream. If you want the race to be over tomorrow, let me hear you scream. All right.
I was very shocked.
Wow. Leading the charge. That is hype, man.
He was hype.
Yes.
He was hype. I mean, maybe he's feeling really good. He just got engaged,
Yeah, he's cloud nine.
He's on top of the world, but like it kept going.
How many of y'all want 4 more years of low inflation under Donald Trump? How many of y'all want 4 more years of low crime and high law and order under Donald J. Trump?
was like waiting for him to say, "Let me tell you something, brother."
Exactly. What is
Right?
this?
I've never heard Tim Scott like this.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Where was this guy on the debate stage?
Seriously. Come on, man.
If he had done this on the debate stage, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm waiting for and fighting in the left corner. It's like, dude, he is hype.
On the debate stage, he's like, my mother was a single mom, and I was raised to respect this country. And then last night, he's like,
Donald J. Trump.
Donald.
How many of y'all want me to stop talking so you can hear from your next president, Donald J. Trump, 4 more years?
I don't know.
Your
He said, how many of y'all want me to stop talking?
want me to stop talking?
I don't. Keep going.
No, this is great.
Could have done 20 more minutes of this, Tim. Why did they only give Tim 2 minutes? It's like he got into Hunter's stash or something last night.
Yeah, for real.
He
yeah.
was ready.
He's on one.
He was ready. Who wants me to stop? I don't.
No, keep going.
Please. Please. Vivek was there. Vivek wasn't as hype as Tim Scott, but he was there, stumping for Trump. Oh, my computer's doing things.
I love you back. It's good to be back here. We will speak the truth and get this done. We are in the middle of a war in this country.
That's a great way to start. He's off to a hot start. I love it. I'm here for it. Continue.
It's not between black and white or even between most Democrats and Republicans. It is between those of us who love this country and a fringe minority who hates the United States of America and what we stand for. Between the permanent state and the everyday citizen. And right now we need a commander-in-chief who will lead us to victory in this war. That is this man standing right here. If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump. If you want to defeat the deep state, vote Trump. If you want to fight inflation, vote Trump. If you want to revive national pride in this country,
What do you think he's going to say?
vote Trump. If you want to revive our national identity in this country, vote Trump. If you want to make America great again, vote Trump. That's how we're going to win this in a landslide in November, like Reagan delivered in 1980. That's what we're going to deliver, and Donald Trump is going to deliver this November. Reunite this country. You guys do your part. Come out on Tuesday night. End this primary right here. Off to defeat Joe Biden in November. And our best days as a nation are still yet ahead of us. Vote Trump, and that's how we do this. God bless you and your families and our United States.
It is
Vote
9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I got more from this rally in Laconia, New Hampshire last night from Trump. Doug Burgum was there. Plus, I got audio from Nikki Haley. She was asked about would she take a gig in the Trump administration. Yeah, all that and more on the way. Hang out with us. It is 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, pothole season, and it is damaging vehicles. The situation, anyway. This is in Robertson County, 65 southbound, just past the Portland exit. You got a pothole. Several vehicles are on the shoulder now. It's causing a 35-minute delay there through Robertson County, southbound 65. Former President Trump's lead widens, even as voters are casting ballots in New Hampshire. This story and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. I am predicting a landslide.
Yeah, kind of like in Dixville Notch overnight.
They love Nikki Haley in Dixville, I've heard.
All 6 of them.
Yep. I had a super texter, 3174, said the best comment. I said, Nikki Haley was being asked by Fox about being in the Trump administration. Would you take a position in the Trump administration? 3174 said, that is funny because I don't think anyone out there is asking Trump if he would take a position in the Haley administration.
Bingo.
But that's what she was asked by Fox News. Fox News doing Fox News things. Would you take a position in the Trump administration? That's what they asked her yesterday.
Question. Obviously, it gets sharp in the final days. Do you ever see yourself in a Trump administration if it were to come to that, or is that something you've absolutely closed the door on?
Martha, I'm running to win this race. And as much as everybody wants to talk about what I'm going to do, at some point, y'all are going to realize that I won this race, and you're going to have to accept when I say I told you so.
She didn't even come in second in Iowa.
And she didn't answer the question.
At some point, you're going to have to realize that I've won this race. I don't know. I don't know, Nikki.
It is slow. He wins the race. I've done this the entire time. We're going to finish it. I don't want anything else. I don't want anything else. I'm running to be president. I'm not going to pull out because somebody wants to be coronated. I'm not going to pull out.
Weak pullout game is what she's saying.
Because they think that I shouldn't be there. The political class has never thought I should be here. In South Carolina, in Congress, at the UN, no one has ever thought I should be here. And that's exactly why I should be here. Because I'm fighting for normal people. And I'll always do that.
I don't know. Would you consider big Democrat donors normal people? You know what I mean? Like Reid Hoffman, the guy that went to Epstein Island. It's like one of her biggest donors. Would you consider that? Would you consider that normal people?
Very regular.
That's normal.
It's very.
That's normal behavior to be able to have like a couple $100 million to throw at a candidate.
Of course.
Between your escapades to Epstein Island. Just normal things for Nikki Haley. Just the normal people that she's fighting for. Pretty weird. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$9:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, we got a pothole causing a big problem in Robertson County. 65 southbound is backed up. That's several vehicles off on the shoulder because they hit this pothole. It's causing a 37-minute delay there, 65 southbound in Robertson County. We've got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Tell you how long this rain's going to hang around. And election 2024 with ballots being cast in the New Hampshire primary, a Suffolk University poll showing former President Trump's lead over Nikki Haley actually widened after Ron DeSantis dropped out of the race. Trump up now by 22%. And everyone can see those new documents in the divorce case of Georgia Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, which were released by a judge yesterday. They surround the allegations of an affair with Fulton County DA Fonnie Willis.
The judge decided that Fonnie Willis won't need to testify just yet, but he agreed to unseal the divorce and let the public see the receipts for certain travel expenses to San Francisco and to Florida with credit card statements that show that Fonnie Willis was at the very minimum his travel companion.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, all right, all right. If you want 4 more years of Donald Trump, let me hear you scream. If you want the race to be over tomorrow, let me hear you scream. All right. How many of y'all want 4 more years of low inflation under Donald Trump? How many of y'all want 4 more years of low crime and high law and order under Donald J. Trump? How many of y'all want me to stop talking so you can hear from your next president, Donald J. Trump, 4 more years?
That was Macho Man Tim Scott last night in Laconia, New Hampshire, selling for Donald Trump, endorsing him on the main stage. Everybody was there that's endorsed him recently. All these presidential candidates are dropping out and endorsing Trump. Doug Burgum, he was there. Vivek Ramaswamy, he was there.
Yeah, he was hyped too.
Tim Scott, he was there. Whew. Unbelievably hyped.
Very hyped.
If you want me to run through a brick wall for Donald Trump, scream! One noticeable absence. One noticeable absence. Where was Ron DeSantis? You guys thought we weren't going to be able to use that anymore. We're finding new ways.
Back.
We're finding new. It never left. We retired it, and it came back like Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like it's back. So one notable exception last night: Ron DeSantis. Not there. He gave him a half-hearted endorsement in that video. I made a pledge. I'm going to stick by my pledge. But then he doesn't show up to stick by his pledge. He doesn't show up to show support. Maybe he was busy. Maybe he had prior commitments. Maybe he hasn't been in Florida long enough, and he's like, I finally get back to Florida. I can't go to New Hampshire. You know what I mean? I've been away from Florida for 5 months. Still kind of the governor. So maybe, possibly, he's doing Florida things.
Yeah, maybe his desk has been piled up.
Maybe. Yeah, a lot in the inbox. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Got to clear those emails. Possibly. But I do find it odd that just less than 24 hours after he's dropped out of the race and endorsed Donald Trump for president, Ron DeSantis takes to Twitter to take a swipe at Trump. At least many people are taking this as a swipe, as Trump was on stage in Laconia, New Hampshire. Isn't that odd timing? So Trump is on stage in Laconia, New Hampshire, and DeSantis quoted a post from Politico on Twitter, quote tweeted, right? And the Politico post said, some Florida Republicans want taxpayers to pay Trump's legal bills. I didn't read into the article that much because it's like things that'll never happen for 500, Alex, and like, I don't think taxpayers should pay for people's legal bills, whatever. So the Political article says, some Florida Republicans that want taxpayers to pay Trump's legal bills. Ron DeSantis quote tweets it while Trump is on stage in Laconia, New Hampshire, and says, but not the Florida Republican who wields the veto pen. Is that taking a shot at Trump while he's on stage in Laconia, New Hampshire?
Kind of like a power play.
It seemed like, it's like a jab, right?
Yeah, it's like a little jab. Like, I
don't forget who runs Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
And it comes just a day after DeSantis suspended his campaign for the White House because of all the failures and flubs and high heel boots. So, and people are like trying to be like, welcome Ron back in. I was like, Ron, come on in, man. Did I take many shots at him yesterday?
No, and in fact, you said that Trump will need him.
And we do. But he's already taking swipes at DeSantis. Already there. It's amazing to me how quickly that happened. You endorse Trump, take a shot at Trump. And I'm quickly brought back to a prediction from one Vivek Ramaswamy. My mind quickly went to this as soon as I see DeSantis swiping at Trump while Trump is on stage. Do you remember Vivek Ramaswamy predicting this?
The system wants to narrow this down to a two-horse race between Donald Trump and a puppet who they can control. And it has become increasingly clear that puppet is not a Democrat. It's not even Gavin Newsom. It's Nikki Haley. It's in our own party. Well, today, one more step in that plot unfolds. Chris Christie drops out. Next up, I'm going to make a prediction. You're actually going to see Ron DeSantis join Nikki Haley's ticket. He's going to be her VP. The whole game, it's hiding in plain sight. Whatever it takes, and this system will stop at nothing. And I mean nothing. To eliminate Donald Trump from contention. It's disgusting.
Everybody remembers that prediction, right?
Yeah.
So now DeSantis is swiping at Trump. And they've been trying to make the third party candidate a thing, right? They when they were talking about RFK, they said RFK will steal more votes from Trump than he will from Biden. RFK is a monkey wrench in that plan. But then polling showed that it wouldn't really work that way. That he would steal more from Biden as opposed to Trump. He would take some from Trump, sure. Some independents. But with DeSantis continuing to swipe at Trump on Twitter, not showing up at the rally where Tim Scott is running through brick walls, Vivek Ramaswamy's there saying it's a war, Doug Burgum shows up. He was just kind of doing Doug things. It wasn't bad. It was just, just being Doug Burgum. DeSantis is nowhere to be found. Except on Twitter, while Trump is speaking, taking jabs at him. And my mind goes to the fact that they've been making this third-party candidate a thing. And is there any other ticket that could take more away from Trump than a Haley DeSantis ticket? We heard Nikki Haley, when she was asked if she would be willing to be in the Trump administration, saying that she's not going to pull out. She's there to win. Would Nikki run as a third-party candidate? Would DeSantis get involved with that? This is just a hunch I have. I'm not leaning on anything other than my gut feeling and the fact that the establishment wants to do anything to prevent Trump from becoming president. People on the super text line are saying that I constantly take swipes at DeSantis. All right, fair enough.
That's true. Yeah.
4200 said, "Oh, please, Chris, you continuously take swipes and outright shots at DeSantis. Yesterday was no different." All right, fair.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
All right, touche. But I feel vindicated.
Yeah, but I was right.
Yeah. 3616 says that tweet from DeSantis was not a swipe. The people of Florida shouldn't have to pay Trump's legal fees. They should take the money from the DOJ budget. I don't think the people of Florida are going to have to pay for those legal fees. I think that's a Politico article to make it seem like Republicans are doing whatever they can to help out Trump at the cost of taxpayers. That article from Politico is a hit job. It's things that would never happen for $500, Alex. But the fact that DeSantis quoted it and said that while Trump is on stage, it does lead me to think maybe there's an opportunity there that we're not seeing. Maybe there's something being planned that we're not seeing. Who knows?
4295 says DeSantis is a soy boy.
Bingo.
I think you may be right.
But that could be bad, though, like you're saying.
That would be a tough hill to climb up.
I feel like that'd be the most adversity the campaign's faced so far.
Yeah. Them running as a third-party ticket.
Mm-hmm.
3996 says DeSantis is being a brat.
Bingo.
Ann says, why do you think they could beat Trump and who he picks VP? I don't know if I don't think that ticket would beat Trump. That's not what I'm saying. I think that a Haley DeSantis ticket maybe could steal enough from Trump so that way it prevents him from winning.
Yeah, get Biden. Spread Republican voters too thin. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Not saying that, Nikki Haley DeSantis is the ticket that can dethrone Trump.
That's the power duo.
No. I'm saying that all of the never Trumpers, the DeSantis bros, I think that they would be like, yep, all right, I'm voting over here then. Whereas in the current reality, we're saying DeSantis voters are going to come into the Trump camp. Right?
Yep.
Is everybody following?
Yep.
0727 said that would be the end of their political aspirations. Well, I mean, it's when you're in your death throes of a campaign, crazy things happen. I don't know. Just a thought that I've had. And I wonder what may happen as we see things continue to evolve in the lead up to November. It would be wild if that happened. I hope it doesn't. And a lot of people on the super text line are saying that would be the end of DeSantis' political career. Maybe. Voters have short memories. Very short memories. But Trump was out there last night in Laconia, New Hampshire, and he wasn't focused on Haley. No, he was focused on Joe Biden. And he was aiming at Joe Biden the entire night.
Biden and his thugs are desperate to stop us because we are the only ones, and they know that, who can stop them. And that's why they're weaponizing law enforcement and high-level election interference, the likes of which this country has never seen. We've never seen anything like what's happening with using the DOJ and the FBI to go after his political opponent. It's unbelievable. The good news is it's driven my poll numbers up. I mean, someday we're going to have to write a book about this one. But people understand, and, I have a voice. I have a big voice, so I can speak about it. I can talk about it. I can talk about when they want to indict you and arrest you for election integrity. And, they're still fighting on the 2016 election, right? It's okay for them. They're fighting still. They're fighting on the 2016.
Yep.
Same things, except much worse than they accuse our patriots. All we want is an honest election. Because if you don't have honest elections and strong borders, you don't have a country.
And he's absolutely right. And under Joe Biden, we definitely don't have a strong border. That's a given. That is absolutely a given.
Joe Biden is truly a threat to democracy for two reasons. Number one, we just said part of it, but number two is he's incompetent.
Yep.
And that's probably the biggest threat that we have is his incompetence. This is only happening because we're leading big in the polls. If I didn't run, or if I wasn't leading by so much in the polls, but if I didn't run, or if I was in number 4 place where they're not too worried, none of this would be happening. None of this would be happening.
No, if Trump had gone off into the sunset, we probably wouldn't have seen these indictments. Probably wouldn't have. If Trump had decided, I'm done, I'm going to go spend time with my grandkids, all of this persecution would have stopped. I think we can all agree on that. Meanwhile, Trump is still picking up massive endorsements. He received the Catholic vote endorsement. 137,000 voters. They said, today we're very grateful to be endorsed by one of the nation's largest Catholic advocacy groups. The Trump team said, Catholic vote. They're incredible. It's a pretty big endorsement. A lot of people are wondering, why would the Catholics endorse Trump? I mean, I understand. He's an imperfect man. We all are. Nobody's perfect, right? But he defends believers. He defends Jesus Christ. He defends our God-given rights. Roe v. Wade? Anybody? He's been doing all of that. So this was a big endorsement, and he spoke about it last night in Laconia, New Hampshire.
They love to call me a fascist.
Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Oh, man, I lost that. Jeez, where did that endorsement go? Here it is. Sorry about that.
We're also very grateful to be endorsed by one of the nation's largest Catholic advocacy groups, Catholic Vote. It's called Catholic Vote. And I just want to thank them. They are incredible. Now, I don't know what it is with Catholics, but the FBI is going after Catholics. Why would any Catholic vote for a Democrat? You two, Any Catholic being harassed? Now, why would a Catholic, think of it, what they're doing? I hear stories that are just horrible. Why would a Catholic be voting for Biden or a Democrat? Doesn't make sense. It's horrible. What they're doing is horrible.
No, it's true. The FBI under Joe Biden is going after Catholics, infiltrating churches, tracking your purchases if it happens to be a Bible. I can't understand how anybody with religious conviction could support the radical left in this day and age. I mean, our current resident-in-chief claims to be a Catholic, but he's out there leaning into the abortion topic as reproductive health care. That doesn't sound very Catholic to me. As a guy that was raised in a Catholic household, now I'm non-denominational, but I was raised with the Catholics. I mean, not to be like Joe Biden. I was raised in a black church, and I know what that's like. But I do. If there's one thing I know, it's Catholics. A lot of my family. And they don't support the guy we have in office now. So I'm not shocked by this endorsement, though many people seem to be. Hey, on the way, we have Parents Who Fight coming in. They're going to talk about another aspect of how our kids are in danger, and that's with big tech. I'm really excited about this conversation we're going to have. We're going to dive in deep on the dangers of iPhones, social media. We're going to open up the phone lines for you, let you ask your questions. It's going to be a great conversation after 10 o'clock. Hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got some pothole repair going on, drivers, and it is causing a near hour-long delay for folks coming to Tennessee from Kentucky. Southbound 65 starts backing up right there at the Kentucky state line in Robertson County due to that pothole repair there, southbound 65. We'll tell you how long it's going to rain during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Election 2024 voters heading to the polls today for the New Hampshire primary. 2 Republican presidential candidates remain, Nikki Haley and former President Trump. Haley spoke to reporters outside one polling location in Hampton and said that many voters don't want to see another Trump-Biden rematch.
You need someone at the top of their game that can put in 8 years, that can go and get things back on track. That's what this is about.
Well, a Suffolk University poll this morning shows former President Trump's lead over Haley actually widened after Ron DeSantis dropped out of the race. Trump's now up by 22%. The legal team for former President Trump continues to push for a dismissal of criminal charges in Fulton County, Georgia, following allegations of an affair between the district attorney, Fani Willis, and the special prosecutor she hired for the Trump case, Nathan Wade. ABC News legal analyst Dan Abrams says while he does not expect the case against the former president will be dropped as a result of these allegations, he says it could be a shakeup in the prosecution's lineup.
I'd be surprised if both Fani Willis and Nathan Wade are both on this case in a month from now, right? And the question's going to be, do they do it voluntarily? Does a court order it? Is there a recusal? Look, there's a very strong argument that as a result of this, that she should recuse herself and say, you know what, someone else in the office can handle the case, etc.
Yeah, new documents in Wade's divorce case shows travel expenses to San Francisco and to Florida with credit card statements that show that Fani Willis, his boss, was at the very minimum his travel companion. And right now in Tennessee, an investigation is underway after a prison fight at the privately run Trousdale Correctional Center in Hartsville. Channel 4 says Core Civic says staff was notified of a fight involving a group of inmates yesterday afternoon. It resulted in one inmate having to be flown to the hospital by helicopter. Another inmate went to the hospital by ambulance, both seriously hurt. No staff members were hurt. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I'm very excited about my next 2 guests that I have in the studio. We have Jesse and Sarah Siegand. They run a website, parentswhofight.com, and they run an organization, Parents Who Fight. It's not just a website. You guys are actually in the community every day fighting against what our kids can't really fight, you know, those battles for themselves. And really you focus on big tech. Oh, let's turn these on.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
There we are.
We're definitely wanting to awaken the parents out there to understand how big tech has manipulated what is actually their experience in their home with their kids, and all the conflict has been influenced by the priorities of big tech.
Yeah, and I would say that we focus on both big tech and then in-home tech.
Yep.
It's a local movement or local thing that we do for parents locally in our community, but it's also it's brought us into much greater focus of big tech, the nation, the world, and what we're up against, what families are up against, what kids are up against. So.
Yeah, I was familiar with you guys. You did a workshop at my kids' school, and I was really excited, and I learned a lot. And I've kind of known about you guys for a while through that, and I was like, I need to get them on my show because this information is really valuable. How did you guys get your start in this fight against big tech and what kids are dealing with, and where do you want to go with it?
Well, back around 2013, leading into 2014, we had our kids in public school, and they were young. It was kindergarten and second grade, or maybe first grade and third grade, when they came home separately with two different situations with things they had heard from other kids at school that alerted Sarah to the fact that whatever these kids were talking about, clearly they had been exposed to pornography in some way. And that kind of started getting our attention heavily. We knew how to protect our own home, but Sarah found out about this event that was happening, the summit. That was the first year that they did it. At the time, the organization that put it on is in Washington, D.C. At the time, they were called Morality in Media, but they had changed their name to NCOSE, National Center on Sexual Exploitation. And she went to that first inaugural summit and came back like armed with, I mean, it wasn't just faith-based people that were there.
No, not at all.
That were anti-pornography, talking about how bad it is for you, how bad it is for the brain already.
Yep.
And things like that, the other dangers online. And so she came back like on fire for like this cause, for this case, for the situation, and for like, what can we do to just do something quickly in our community? And initially we just were like, let's ask our school, let's be a sounding board for all these other organizations that we found out about. And thankfully, our brave elementary school principal here in Nashville at the time said, yeah, you should do it. We asked if we could do a parent meeting after school. And he's like, yeah, based on what one child and family brought to me on their iPad this last week, you should do that.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal. And that kind of launched us. And when we had that, was like, we have to call this something. This has to have purpose. This has to have a direction. And Parents Who Fight, that name rose to the surface. And it does confuse some people sometimes. They think, maybe it's like divorce care or something.
Yeah.
But we get the word out about what it's about, is that it's parents. We're helping parents to fight for the safe futures of their kids online and in the world around them, and to live a healthy balance of being off tech when needed. So,
and we kind of like that it's provoking. Like, are you fighting or are you not?
Yeah.
Because if you're not proactive,
Yeah,
there's probably stuff that's happening that you don't realize that is really putting your kids in danger.
Well, that's one of the things that always scares me is, and I have, 4 young kids, and it's like, so many parents are asleep at the wheel. I went to a Chuck E. Cheese. I took my kids to a Chuck E. Cheese, and there was a kid there watching a cartoon at the dinner table eating pizza. I'm like, we're at a Chuck E. Cheese.
Right.
yeah.
You see kids hooked on this tech. It must have been a 3 or 4 year old girl.
Yeah.
There's like way too many things to be doing at a Chuck E. Cheese rather than that.
Of all the places with all the stimulation.
And none of them are cost effective. So you've already paid the price to eat the pizza and do all the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was out on that early on. Like when we stopped doing that, we did it by like once or twice with our kids.
You
I
mean
think.
going to Chuck E.
Going
Cheese?
to Chuck E.
Yeah,
Cheese
just
for
going.
like birthdays or whatever.
Long before devices were a thing.
Yeah, we're like, this is
Yeah.
chaotic.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we were talking beforehand about. I created this wooden nickel for parents to give to other parents when they see them doing something screen-free in those kinds of settings. So the doctor's office, the grocery store, I always have them. And, when a kid is not on a screen, it's like that's the time to affirm the parent. You're doing the right thing. You're going in the right direction. And there's no shame involved. Every parent has moments where they have to put a sick kid in front of something, right?
Totally.
Understandable. But when we're in those, what we call them tech-free parenting wins, we want to at least, say, attaboy, keep going.
Want to celebrate it.
The hope is that they'll take the wooden nickel and pass it on. And I never tell them I'm from Parents Who Fight. I don't do a spiel. I make it very brief. I don't want to invade their privacy. I'm just like, hey, I just want to let you know you're doing an awesome thing. And I'm actually going to come up with some stickers to give the kids, too, because I started noticing that they feel a little bit bad that I'm congratulating the parent. They get nothing.
Like, what do I get for this?
So, it's tough. It's, I have 4 young kids. We go to a restaurant. We're screaming and throwing food, and people are looking. It's like, I'm still not going to give them the iPhone.
Right. And we used to have more tolerance for that, right? Back in the day. And I despise and try not to go to any restaurant where there's like a thing on the table where you can have games.
Yep.
It's like, nope, you lost me. I'm not going there.
It seems like culture and society are pushing this on us more and more, and not a lot of people are taking into account the dangers of that iPhone.
Right.
Oh, it's freaky. I'll tell you a little story. I have a friend who told me that this is local. Like, he was in a restaurant with his wife, and he noticed a probably 4 or 5, maybe three, the youngest age kid on a device looking at like a cartoon or something. And the mom was sitting there trying to get the kid to eat their food, but she was watching a YouTube or something. And she could not get her attention. She took the phone away. The kid starts screaming and freaking out. She gives the phone back, or the iPad, and she gets on her phone.
The mom.
The mom makes a video of herself telling the kid to eat their food, and then sticks it in front of the kid
That's
get
terrifying.
The kid. It's terrifying, yeah. And this isn't that.
He actually started to cry when he was telling me that story. It's heart-wrenching.
So that's just a little sign of where we're at.
Yeah.
Like in society and what we're dealing with. And there's ways that the phone is changing everything, changing our brains, changing us.
Yeah.
Even as adults, we're struggling with
It's interesting because the millennial parents, a lot of them are really the first like teenage and up experiment with like phones and whatever. Yeah. So they're lock solid on some things. Like, I'm not going to give my kids social media, But I have noticed that some of them, because they didn't experience I have a phone in the back seat when I'm 3 years old. They didn't. That wasn't their reality.
Yep.
They are a little bit unsure of what the parameters are when it comes to really young devices and screen use. And there was actually a statistic that came out from the JAMA, which is the Journal of American Medicine, something. It's on our Instagram page. I put it on there. But it's like an hour of, let's see, I wrote it here. Preschoolers who use screen-based media for more than an hour each day have been shown to have significantly less development in core brain regions involved in language and literacy. Brain scans indicate that more time spent on screens, the lower the child's language skills and the less structural integrity in key brain areas responsible for language. That's not even like dangerous content. We're just talking like
Screen
how your
time
brain responds to that screen, and especially from a young age, you may not realize the outcome that you are enabling.
And some parents still aren't fully aware of certain things, like with the research that's there now. Now we're catching up.
Yeah,
to
we didn't have it before.
It's
like because there was nowhere to get the data from when this all started.
And it hadn't been studied long enough, and now we have that.
It's very similar to like when cigarettes were finally found to be dangerous to your health, and then it took 20 more years to get the word out, and then 20 more years to make law. It takes a long time.
Like no, my doctor recommended these cigarettes.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, back then it's crazy.
Yeah,
but similarly. We're trying to help parents know things like no toddler should actually have control of their under what age? Like 2, 3.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's like zero recommendation for screen time for like 2 and under. Like none. They don't need it at all. You know, give them a stick, put them in the mud, give them a sandbox. There's so much that's developing. But then there's all this research about the difference between interactive screen use and general screen use. So a kid controlling PBS Kids on an iPad where they can pause and swipe and rewind and whatever, just their finger touching it is affecting different brain regions than PBS Kids, 10 feet away on the living room TV where they have no control over it. So, there's little changes that parents can make in those younger years that are, preservational for their kids' cognitive development.
And that goes into hugely what we recommend about a lot of tech is delay as long as you can on every level of tech and every age and stage.
Well, and I saw one of your things on your website, parentswhofight.com. It's the 5 phases of tech training. And the first one is delay.
Yeah, the first one is actually model, which you never grow out of, but that's a given, right?
Right up there.
That's something you do have to make choices about every day, but this is why it's important for parents to understand how their screen use is impacting their kids, and not just their screen use, but their decisions around tech. I mean, we go into homes to do tech consultations and help parents lock down stuff, and they have to fill out an inventory of every device in their home. And it's kind of crazy how many devices we all have, how many TVs that we go into that home. We've got to protect 5 or 6 TVs in some cases. And it's like, you don't realize that you have sent a message to your kids about what you value by just that. How much do we have?
And these are things that we're all guilty of, and I don't want my listeners to think we're in an ivory tower. It's like
Absolutely.
this, but I think there comes a point where we have to be conscious of what we're doing.
Right, and that's what we're asking is for parents to be super intentional. So I'll share a story of a really intentional parent who they moved to Tennessee, purchased a home that they hadn't actually been on site yet to see, and moving from another state. And when they got here, they realized, oh man, the bonus room is like really far away from the kitchen, which is kind of in their previous home where the kids could watch, PBS Kids or whatever. And so the mom was like, they generally don't want TV in their like main living area. That was a value that they had. And they had to make the decision of, we're taking tech out of the room that's far away. We're putting it right here. We bought something that can look like a painting so it doesn't bother us so much.
Yeah.
And then I helped her lock it down so that it only comes alive from this time to this time. Here's all the things you can block on it. Her and her husband sat down. They went through that TV with all the PIN codes and everything that they needed to get rid of apps that they didn't want their kids to have access to, which you kind of can't really get rid of them, but you can lock them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's intentional. So you move into the home and you're like, oh, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And you do something that's maybe inconvenient to solve the problem if you're able to.
Well, and I think it's so hard for a lot of parents to even grasp this because, when we were growing up, it was Saturday morning cartoons.
Totally.
There wasn't a YouTube algorithm manipulating what pops up next. There wasn't Netflix that would take old shows and then add a new character in a new season that's completely against what your home values
100%, yeah.
So like things are changing so fast that if you're not paying attention, you're kind of left behind. And it's like you even have to make intentional decisions on where you're getting your content. Are you going to Netflix or are you going to Yippee? Are you, where are you getting this?
Yes.
I keep my kids off YouTube as much as humanly possible.
Yeah. That's one of the 4 things that we encourage parents to delay. And it always confuses them. Like, well, how would you do that?
Yeah, everybody, so many kids watch YouTube.
And you've got to find alternatives. Once they get into the school age years, if they're at a school that gives devices and that school doesn't have a protocol about YouTube, they will be watching YouTube during school and you may not be able to do anything about it. But in your home, you can absolutely block it, using a router that has that block on it. That's what we do. That's our top recommendation to parents. So YouTube is something we encourage parents to delay because there is every manner of anti-family values on that channel. And if your kids aren't inoculated, if they aren't, going into, let's say in middle school, your kid's going to use YouTube. We're not saying they don't use YouTube till they graduate, right?
Yeah.
But in middle school, it's like you have poured into them what cultural lies, you are making sure they know the cultural lies that are out there and what the truth is. And so then hopefully they're navigating some of those things with a little bit more understanding and not just what's being fed to them,
Yeah, we're hanging out with Jesse and Sarah Segan. They're going to be here for the hour. They run Parents Who Fight. You can find more information at parentswhofight.com. And the phone lines are open. One of the things you guys do are home consultations. You help people, avoid this tech. So if there are parents out there that have a question about tech, you want some advice, you want some tips for your children, what's safe, what's not safe, what do these guys recommend? Phone lines are open, text line is open, 615-737-9986. We'll be back next with Parents Who Fight. It's 1021 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, drivers, you need to prepare for some delays north of Nashville. Right now in Robertson County, they've got pothole patching going on both north and southbound at 65. There's up to an hour delay because of it. That's pothole patching on 65 north and southbound in Robertson County. New Hampshire voters explain why they're voting, or rather who they're voting for and why. And a popular Honda SUV under scrutiny for a defect. These stories and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's Chris Hand hanging out with Jesse and Sarah Siegand from Parents Who Fight. The website is parentswhofight.com. These guys are big in the world of tech and how you can protect your kids. So we've opened up the phone lines. We've opened up the text line because they provide a lot of great info on how to protect your kids. And I want to thank everybody for your text. I got a first-time texter here, 0042, says, I'm a single mom, not super tech savvy. I want to protect my kids, but it feels overwhelming. Where do I even begin? What is the first step?
Obviously, there's a little bit of, it depends on what ages you have. Like, do you already have middle schoolers kind of thing? But the first thing we would recommend for parents is to really evaluate all of the different devices they have in their reach and make sure that whatever safety protocols are available on that device, you get them enabled. When you don't have safety settings on a device, you're accidentally communicating to a kid that this is probably not dangerous. It'd be like you reaching into the oven without oven mitts, right? Like you reach into the refrigerator without any protection. So that's the first thing. And shout out to Protect Young Eyes. They've got a great website that you can literally go to the device name and do a drop-down menu and find the safety settings that are available on popular devices. So that's something we do all the time. So find what is available already for free on those devices. Get a filtered router, something like Griffin, something like Eero, that it's going to catch all of the things connecting to your Wi-Fi in your home and give you the opportunity to block things, even on your smart TVs, which is really important. But I think one of the biggest commonalities I see with single-parent homes or parents who are sharing custody is the very real challenge of, okay, my kid is going to another home, and sometimes across the country, like they're getting on a plane and flying to said parent for Christmas or whatever. And so there's a lot of conflict about like, what's the phone situation? Which parent owns the phone? Does any parent exert control over the phone? What can they see? And we would recommend, if you're on the cusp of trying to make that decision of should we have a phone for our kid who is, our kids who are going to their dad's house or whatever, get a kid-safe phone. Get something like Gab, Bark, TrueMe, Pinwheel. Those are going to give you the opportunity to have it be very specific what they can and can't do on there. Do not just give your kid, well, they're going to their dad's house, so I'm going to get him an iPhone. And if you've got any sort of, custody arrangement that you're working out, get a technology plan in that custody arrangement so that you can say the parents are going to provide 50-50, the phone costs or whatever. This parent has the right to control it. And you really just, you have to be intentional. And, some people don't have a great co-parent. So it's really hard. And on a case-by-case basis, these are the questions we welcome from parents like, this is the specific challenge I'm having. We'll email you back. We'll direct message you back. If you want to set up a Zoom consultation, I have had Zoom consultations with divorced parents. I just had one from Phoenix, and I was so proud of them because they knew what their kids are going through is really hard. And the parents, were on separate Zoom calls, and they were sharing their concerns, and they were sharing, this is what I feel comfortable doing. Can we set their downtime to this? And they were working together to make that transition easier for their kids. So shout out to parents that, do stuff like that. It's really awesome when they're working together.
And I would just add, we totally get it. We've worked a lot with all kinds of family situations, and the single parent, single mom situation can be really tough. We understand that fully. I would say, to add to what Sarah's saying, is if there's any way you can fight to find community, find people, because really that's what, when we started, she just started going to all her friends and saying, "Hey, did you know you could do this on the iPhone and lock this down, and you could put this on, guided access? What's that?" and so community and help from others is so important, because sometimes a single parent situation, you don't always. I mean, all situations, we don't always have the money or the time to do a bunch of research. But yeah, if it's a Zoom consultation with us for an hour, or if it's just, if you can find friends that are tech savvy around you, that's super helpful.
Yeah, I've helped many.
Conversation is key. We're hanging out with Jesse and Sarah Segan from Parents Who Fight. We're going to be answering more of your questions from the Super Text line. Phone lines are open for you if you have a question for Jesse or Sarah, 615-737-9986. I'm seeing questions about ads, how to lock down tracking security, what we can do with smart TVs. We'll get to all of those next. Hang out with us. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You guys are rocking.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Expect delays if you're going to be traveling on 65 north of Nashville. Both the north and southbound 65 is right now being slowed down significantly due to pothole patching through Robertson County. Election 2024 voting is underway today for New Hampshire's primary vote, and independent voter Sarah Barley says she's all in for Nikki Haley over former President Trump.
I grew up in New York, in upstate, and he does not have a great reputation. I think he's a total con man, and I'll do anything to make sure he doesn't get voted in.
Well, Trump is up 22 points over Haley, according to a Suffolk University poll this morning. A popular Honda SUV is now under scrutiny. Here's Mike Dabusky with more.
Certain 2023 Honda HRVs could have a manufacturing defect that causes the defroster to shatter the rear window. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration fielding hundreds of complaints about the compact crossover. No recall is planned, but the automaker tells Consumer Reports that it's setting up a voluntary product update campaign to fix the issue.
Honda says call the dealer. And that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined by Jesse and Sarah Siegand from Parents Who Fight, parentswhofight.com. They're an organization that is protecting kids from big tech, the danger of phones, and the danger of tech in general. We've asked for your questions on the Super Text line, on the phone line, 615-737-9986. Feel free to call 615-737-9986. Got a text here from 3627 I want to read to you guys. Said, hey, the ads, they're awful. My daughter, 11, with restricted use of electronics was playing a game. I was watching her and helping and whatnot. These ads were for I don't even know. But the rear ends of scantily clad women would blow up big while they twerked. And some had a tie-dye game, but then shorts or swimsuits would be darkened in the crotch area. I was floored, blocked those games. Is there any way to know which games won't have sketchy ads?
I would say there's zero way to know because the games, unless you download it and play it yourself, the games generally don't care if the ads are sketchy. And there was actually a movement to get the app stores to have a not streamlined, but a consistent app rating where if you're accepting ads, just like it'd be on broadcast television, if you're accepting ads for this, that, and the other, that show gets, this rating or it's at this time of night, whatever. I think people kind of don't realize that anymore because so much of our entertainment is not broadcast, it's cable and it's streaming. But that's where the age guidance was for a long time on broadcast television. So the apps don't have any of that. A 4+ app could have horrible ads.
Yes. And I think that's one of the things that like parents aren't really aware of because, growing up for me, the most embarrassing commercial that could come on would be a tampon commercial with my mom. And, we'd all be freaked out.
Right.
And now, even you watch the NFL playoffs and there's commercials that you don't want to watch with your kids.
Yes.
It's challenging to beat it. But, I was just going to say that sometimes now still the paid version of an app would stop.
Yeah, that's
ads,
one thing. If there's a free version or a paid version, just pay it if it's an app that you feel okay about.
And if you can test it out as a parent first.
The biggest challenge, honestly, is Apple. So iPhones and iPads, whatever apps you download in association with that Apple ID. So whether it's your Apple ID as the parent, if it's an iPad, or your kids, you can never, ever, ever, I repeat, never truly get rid of access to that app. Even parents will say, no, I've got, actually was arguing with a lobbyist about this here at the state legislature. I've got app permissions or download permissions turned on. My kids has to ask, okay, that's one time. Do you think that Apple is smart enough to fix that so that it is a permission every time? Yes, they are. They are not doing it on purpose.
Really?
Yes. Mm-hmm. On Android, if you download an app and you go, oh my gosh, this is horrible, you can block it, delete it, it's gone forever. On an Apple, the only thing you can do, if you've downloaded apps you regret, we've done it, every parent has done it.
Every human.
You have to block the App Store on that device, just remove it completely in the settings, or you can set like a 1-minute time limit. So we had an app that was it was a normal app, but it had backdoor access to stuff that was not okay. And so we told our kid was like 17 or 18 at the time. So we still had access to his parental controls we could access remotely. And we're like, we don't want you using this app. There's just too much temptation. And totally, he's like, okay, no problem. Well, all I could do to keep the App Store alive for the kid that I'm like, he's almost grown, he should have access to the App Store, is to set a 1-minute time limit on that app. And maybe 6 months roll by and I notice there's 1 minute of activity on that app in the daily, time. And I'm like, wait a second. I thought you downloaded that app. I knew he could get back to it. He knew he could get back to it. He's listened to us talk enough.
He deleted it, right?
Well, he did delete it, but it's just the point of, making sure that your kids realizing that anything that has ever been downloaded, they can just go to the App Store. There's a little cloud there. They download it. It doesn't ask permission anymore. The app permissions, thankfully, Apple moved that into the purchasing arm of their settings.
Okay.
Which was a good move because even I had to take that permission gate off when my kid went off to college. I was like, oh yeah, sorry, you don't have to ask for permission anymore. Because it's under purchasing, because he's under family sharing, which he doesn't want to leave because he gets, free Apple Music if he's under family sharing. There's perks.
Free for
and
him.
He's smart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's smart enough to ride the gravy train. But, so for parents who are out there who are like, I know I've deleted this app. It's like, okay, well, what Apple ID was it downloaded on? If you're giving your kid your old iPad and maybe you've deleted everything from it, but it still has your Apple ID, they have access to anything you've ever downloaded since you opened that Apple ID as an adult in the App Store.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So if going back to the original question, download an app to your phone, not their Apple ID, if it's an iPhone situation.
So you suggest separate IDs if you do have an iPhone?
We didn't used to, but you have to have separate IDs now in order to put them under family sharing, in order for you to exert remote parameters over them. So I could right now, my kid is at school. I could say, he could ask for 15 minutes of YouTube today and I could authorize that. So I can do that remotely. But a lot of parents are getting tripped up about Apple because they recently released iOS 17, which has all these perks, blah, blah, blah. But any phone that's X or older, so iPhone X or older, it won't receive that update to iOS 17, which means the link between the parent phone governing, when your phone shuts off, no, you can't have access to Safari, whatever the case may be, that link is broken and you can't do anything about it.
Don't you feel like that's intentional either? And the motivations...
It's unintentionally intentional.
The motivations may be to force you to upgrade your phone.
Yes, that's exactly what's
behind the motivation is money for Apple, but it feels icky.
Yeah. And
they don't have great support for screen time settings.
Well, right, because how many of the parents how many of the engineers and the developers working at these tech companies are people in our age demographic who are protecting our age of kids? Very, very few. And it's interesting, the two whistleblowers that have come out from Facebook in the last couple of years who have caused a lot of, social pressure on these companies and congressional pressure, they're in their 30s and they're sort of anomalies there. One of them he started working when his kid was really little and had just a great experience at Facebook, came back to work for them when his kid's 13, 14 using Instagram and saying, I have concerns. And they are, totally turning a blind eye.
Well, it's a good pivot point to what I wanted to ask you guys about. There's off the air. There's a couple ways that you can block this content from coming in. Right. You can just not allow it.
Yeah.
But you made the point that at a certain point you have to allow some of it in to help that process. That way, when they're 18, they just don't get a phone on their own and have no idea what they're doing, where they're going.
Yes.
In this digital world. So what's a good age to start this kind of tech? How do you protect them at that starting point? And then also, further than the tech, social media.
Yeah. For us, we said no to smartphones all throughout elementary and middle school. Our oldest had a flip phone, and he, rocked it.
During middle school.
During middle school. That was really the only choice back then, was a flip phone. And then, because we needed to get a hold of him, like, hey, are you in the locker room after football practice?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the other seventh graders, and he was in eighth grade, but there's seventh graders walking around the locker room openly watching Pornhub on their iPhones. And he's flip phone man. But anyway, we had inoculated him against, that, so he was prepared for that
environment. He stayed out of a lot of trouble because of that. And he realized it in middle school. He's like, oh, they're all in this drama and getting in trouble. And then when someone comes to ask me, I'm like, I got a flip phone. Sorry, I don't know anything about this social media stuff.
What age are these kids getting exposed to pornography now?
I mean, the statistic, it's hard to 100% say with certainty, because are you asking the kids? Or are you asking the parents? The parents have no idea, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But the estimated age is 11. I will say the homes I go into, it's 8, 9, 10.
8 and 9, yeah. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, 11 is for sure, by then,
what
a majority.
What age is your kid using a device without you right next to them? I mean, that's when it happens. And it's like 80% of that exposure is happening in our homes, which is why we're like, get your home locked down, because it's a kid can Google kissing because they saw something on a Disney show that they're like, oh, little girls. It used to be perfectly fine for me to be curious as a little girl about the prince and the princess kissing. Like, that's so, everybody giggles. You can't do that anymore. Kissing takes you down a very dark path.
Quickly.
So, I think for parents, it's like understanding they're going to have to be really, they're going to have some hard years in middle school by saying no to a smartphone, but we would encourage it. And I honestly think the longer you wait for even a kid-safe smartphone, just preserve childhood as long as you can. Get your team around you of people who are like, we're not giving a phone. That's what we did. So for our kids, they were the last ones at their school who got smartphones, or even like our youngest son got a Gab phone, which was the latest, greatest thing at the time. It was just talk and text, and it was like, yes,
kind of the first one that came out.
Yeah.
That was like some dads like got this thing together.
Yeah, so he got that, but all of his friends at church, they either had a Gab phone or they had nothing, and it was very normal. They all talk to one another, they call one another, they're with one another.
So you're not the weird kid.
Yeah, you're not the weird kid, and I realize not everybody has that support system, but if a phone is necessary, and by necessary, I would say like they have school obligations that they're going to miss out on, that, drama or whatever. You need to communicate with them. It's kind of really like your need as a parent. Do you have a need to communicate? Then you always start them with a kid-safe phone. Do not ever, ever start them with an iPhone. And I would wait until 13, 14 if you can with the kid-safe phone. And there's lots to choose from now, and they have different things that they're, great at. But, I would not give a kid a phone until they're like fully an adult in training as far as like an iPhone. So for us, that was like 16, 9th or 10th grade, depending on which kid we're talking about for us. And that's like, you have a job. Your job requires an app to schedule things. You're going to be driving, but I'm not giving him a Lamborghini iPhone. Yeah. I'm giving him a very basic iPhone that has productivity on it and not the bells and whistles. And then I think social media, most parents are like, I'm not going to do that, or that's way too hard. We encourage parents to wait until your kid is like into their 17th year. I would spend no more than 1 year between 17 and 18 training them for how to fail on social media, and they will fail. And you as a parent need to have that app to be talking about stuff on a regular basis.
Well, what do you say to the parents that then combat you with, there's a lot of the apps that you can watch what's happening on their phone. You mentioned a couple of them. I think Covenant Eyes was one of them.
Yeah, Covenant Eyes is one. It's an interesting thing to train parents around, is that you're never going to be able to see fully what is inside an app. It's like a fortress. Like any app is proprietary software. It's a castle, right? So that castle has either given a key to an app like
parental
Bark
controls
or whatever,
yeah,
some third-party thing, or you have access to the app as a parent. So like when my kid started Instagram, his account was on my phone too. We had lots of conversations about the algorithm, what he was seeing, what kinds of things were showing up. Or like with Covenant Eyes, their workaround is they have a mechanism through a VPN, which I won't go into all the science behind that, but it basically allows that phone to take a picture of what's happening on Safari every second. And then it's analyzing it through AI, and it's sending me a report once a week with a cross section of the things that are showing up in Safari on that screen, and saying, you might want to have a conversation or whatever. And I could get into the weeds on all of that stuff. But for us, one of our principles was with kids, our kids grew up with Covenant Eyes. We've had Covenant Eyes since they were itty bitty for our own protection from pornography, because as parents who got married in 1997, this is not something we were trained and equipped to know how to do. So that was something we've done to guard our marriage and to guard our kids for the past 15 years.
Yeah, we've been using it as adults, keeping accountability.
So we teach them that accountability is something you don't outgrow. How it changes at my kid who's on a college campus, his accountability is going to be a lot with his bros.
Yep.
and his roommate and what kind of things go on in their room and what they feel comfortable with. They don't have a TV in their room, something that they agreed to. So, you're training them to understand that, like, privacy, first of all, is a total illusion in the internet age. If you're worried about me knowing what your history is, but do you know how many companies today know what your history is 10 minutes
you're
ago?
Absolutely right.
And they're monetizing it. I'm not monetizing it.
Fair
I
enough.
am here to make sure that you are trained for the next section and season of your life. So the picture we show at schools and churches that we go to is like when you have elementary school students and lower, it's this picture of a parent like protecting their kids. They're taking the arrows. They've got the fiery.
I've seen the meme, yeah.
Yeah. And then, but by the time they get to middle and high school, it's the picture of the Narnia teenagers. And they need to be
Learning
battle
to fight.
ready.
Yeah.
For
And
themselves.
that doesn't happen by just saying, well, you're old enough now. Here's a sword. Go into battle. You have to train them.
I like that explanation. We're hanging out with Jesse and Sarah Segan from Parents Who Fight, parentswhofight.com. If you want more info, if you have a question for the Parents Who Fight, Jesse and Sarah, you can text it in. You can call in 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, you're not going anywhere fast if you're traveling north of Nashville on 65 north and southbound through Robertson County. That's due to pothole patching. We've got an election 2024 update, and a Nashville artist finds himself on the wrong side of the law after a night out on the town. We'll tell you about it at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We are hanging out with Jesse and Sarah Siegand. They run Parents Who Fight, fighting the battle to keep kids safe from technology. Andrew, who's on the road, he's a trucker. He's got a question for you guys. Andrew, what's up? You're on Super Talk.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and I'm a Christian mentor. I lead high school boys in the Sumner County area, specifically Gallatin, and I see all the problems that you're talking about. But the curriculum that is going on in these high schools it's a necessity to have a smartphone. And for example, these kids have to check in on an app to use a bathroom break now, so that they can be tracked within school. How does a high school student, how does a kid in this era go without a smartphone now?
I mean, I don't think that you can in some situations like what you're describing. And I don't necessarily think that you have to. I think the challenge as parents is making sure your kid is smartphone ready and at an age, like you said, high school. By high school, they should be able to have some sort of communication device. It's just a matter of where do you start? Do you go iPhone or Android? If you go iPhone, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to keep track of stuff. But if you start intentionally and you do it in a way where you're adding weight to them, so you're not asking them to bench press 400 pounds, but you're adding weight and allowing them to learn, then it can be done, with as few tears as possible. But that's why we're trying to reach the parents, because the kids aren't going to say, "Mommy and Daddy, will you please protect me on my phone?"
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
They don't realize yet that it's bad for them.
Vigilance is the only way. Vigilance is the only way.
That's why it's a fight. And that's why we talk about training and training phones before you start into the smartphones. But 16 and up is getting into that stage of you've got to train them to be able to start handling it themselves. But you, as a parent, have to get yourself together and your partnership with your community to help get around your students. It takes more than a village these days.
And I'll tell you what will wake up the high school students, what we've seen is giving them a broader understanding of how their time and attention is being manipulated and monetized by big tech.
Amen.
And we've been part of a huge...
They don't want to be sold.
Yeah, they don't want to be sold. We've seen kids getting red-pilled and starting to wake up, and they're ready to do something about it.
Red pills by the masses. Thanks for the question, Andrew. It's 11:01. More with Parents Who Fight next on Super Talk.
So that'll tease up the next.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, slow going on 65 north and southbound through Robertson County for some pothole patching. It's raining. We'll tell you for how long during the full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now in Middle Tennessee, TBI agents on the scene of an investigation in Ashland City. News 2 says the focus is on a vehicle covered with a tarp parked near a driveway in the 1700 block of Bear Wallow Road. An image shows crime scene tape all the way out to a mailbox. Entertainment news. Country music artist Chris Young was arrested last night. Reports say Young allegedly assaulted a Tennessee Alcoholic Beverage Commission agent as they were doing compliance checks on Demumbrian Street. Young was charged with disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, assault of an officer. He was released this morning. Election 2024, steady flow of voters in the New Hampshire primary. Democratic voter David Mack says he showed up to vote for Biden challenger Dean Phillips, explaining his decision to ABC News.
Yeah, I would have voted for Nikki Haley also, but I was registered Democrat. Usually I'm Democrat, but just not very happy with Joe Biden not being here. and wanted to support anyone but Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Former President Trump holding a 22-point lead over Nikki Haley in the Republican side of things, according to a Suffolk University poll this morning. And a new warning for owners of a popular SUV. Mike Dabusky with more.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has fielded hundreds of complaints about the Honda HR-V, claiming the compact crossover's rear window can unexpectedly shatter. Consumer Reports, which had the problem happen to their own test vehicle, says Honda told them it has to do with how the defroster interacts with the rear window seal. The company says it's planning a voluntary product update campaign to replace the windows starting in April.
Yeah, Honda also recommends owners who experience the issue to call their dealer or Honda customer service. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The weather is up, the weather is down. Well, don't let you become complacent. It is time to make sure your systems are serviced and they're running the best way, the Busy Bee way, with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Don't wait for a problem to pop up with your heat. It's going to get cold again. Make sure that your unit is in tip-top shape by being proactive with your annual maintenance. Now, whether you need that annual maintenance or if you found over these past few cold days you need repair, it's not working the way it should be, or replacement. The people that call are Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. They're who I trust, and you're not going to find a better value on replacement systems. They offer up to 12 months, no payment, no interest with approved credit, and it pays in so many ways to make sure you sign up for that annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems from Busy Bee. Plus, you can get added rewards and savings by signing up to be a Beehive member. You get that front-of-the-line service. You get that thorough annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems with no overtime charges, 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Plus, they have that convenient Saturday availability for you because they know you're conservative. You work during the week, so they'll come see you on Saturday for those maintenance calls so you'll never be left out in the cold. Busy Bee, they're your Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833 or online, busybeehvac.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I'm blessed to have Jesse and Sarah Segan in here from Parents Who Fight, talking about the dangers of big tech. We planned to only hang out for an hour, but the conversation's been flowing, and they've agreed to stay with us and
welcome.
keep the conversation going. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I begged them. I twisted their arms. But we've been getting a bunch of good questions. We've been having good conversation, and we haven't even cracked into the tip of the iceberg on what you guys do at Parents Who Fight. In fact, there's a big Senate hearing coming up next week, correct?
Yes.
Tell me about the Senate hearing and tell me about how you're getting involved with that.
So next week there are 5 CEOs that are getting called into. They've been subpoenaed to come before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Called into the office.
Called into the office. TikTok, Discord, Meta, X, and Snap will all be there. And it's sort of an ongoing grilling from congressional leaders, and it's part of trying to get legislation passed that will hold big tech accountable, because for a long time there has been a lack of guardrails, a lack of updating legislation. Some of the legislation that we have in place, parents are shocked to realize we've literally been talking about this for 10 years, but the parameter to keep your kid off of social media at 13 and under is not supposed to be on.
Well, it's amazing, too, because, we're seeing parents now just waking up to this. But our elected officials are a lot of times senior citizens.
Right. And I think it's been interesting, even in the past 4 years, the staffers have been largely involved, they're in their 20s, and they are opening test accounts for the senators to see, no, this is what happens when you open an account at 13, which TikTok says it should be fine for you to open an account. Snap says it should be fine. And that 13 number is not because they have curated content appropriate for 13-year-olds. No, 13 came into play in 1998. Okay, with the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. So that law basically said you can't collect private data from children. That's the only reason why 13 is at play. And that law is trying to be updated, and yet we're getting pushback from big tech.
Well, even just hearing 1998 scares me, because you think about where we were as a culture in 1998.
Right.
But that was right around the time, Tipper Gore is fighting for parental advisory stickers on CDs. We have moved so far left as a culture.
Yes. So there's a big push to get legislation updated and new legislation to go through. So the Child Online Privacy Protection Act, the COPPA Act, they are trying to upgrade that to 16 so that, there's 72 million data points collected on each kid before they turn 13.
How many data points?
72 million data points.
Each kid before they turn 13.
Before they turn 13. So these
before
are
it's
things
illegal to gather that information on them.
Yeah, based on the 1998 law.
But yeah, 1998.
Right, because they're using all kinds of tech, and the tech knows that they're children. So previously it was like a lot of elderly senators saying, well, we don't believe in, doing things that are going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Censor. We don't want to censor the internet, blah, blah, blah. And that was the big word. And it's like, well, no, we're talking about, kids being protected from advertisers in largely. So one of these bills that's being we're trying to get it through. It would actually allow 16-year-olds to opt out of the algorithm. So saying you can't follow me with suicidal content or pornographic content or LGBTQ content, whatever. I don't want to see it. I'm opting out of the algorithm. And we think that teenagers and children especially need to be opted out of that. So there are these several pieces of legislation that are, being drafted. We've already got some of them unanimously through committee, and we need some further oomph to get things over the hill.
The crazy thing is that they're pretty much all like bipartisan effort.
Yeah.
Like how much?
Totally.
How often do you get that happening these days on
Right.
anything?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah,
I've so often.
So much
actually.
unity.
Yeah.
So much unity.
Yeah.
Like why? Yeah, why?
Yeah. So like back in October, one of the things that we were blessed to be part of is there's an awesome nonprofit actually based here out of Nashville called Wired Human. And they started a youth coalition, and their purpose is to elevate the student voices who are realizing, wait, all these harms have been done to me. I don't think this is fair. I want people to fix it. And Wired Human has given them a voice by creating this youth coalition. And so in October, they had a big roundtable discussion and 2 days basically of advocacy called Youth on the Hill. And so I volunteered my time and went as a youth mentor. And so I got to be part of just really helping the students. It was interesting, helping them connect the harm that they're very aware of. I was approached as a 10-year-old by adult men who wanted me to do sexual things because I was on Instagram. Okay, so that's like a real story. Okay, so they're aware of the harm. They know it's bad. But when you start telling them like, well, actually, when that happened to you when you were 10, Instagram wasn't even collecting birth dates to prove that you were at least 13 to be on their platform, because that didn't start till 2019.
Which is crazy.
And they didn't lock direct messages from any stranger could contact you until like 2021. It's recently.
Yeah.
Very recent. Largely because of the pressure. So then now you're helping the kid realize, okay, not only was that done to you, it was kind of done intentionally.
Yep.
Because they knew it was happening. Frances Haugen blew the lid off of that story in 2021 as a Facebook whistleblower. This other Meta whistleblower, Arturo Bejar, came out actually right after we got home from DC in October. And so these students are listening to leaders in tech who care, people, like myself, like other tech companies who are trying to help the students elevate their voices. And they're going, wait a second, all of this has been on purpose? They were making money off of me?
Oh, yeah.
And they're rising up. I mean, I'm seeing them come alive with like, this isn't fair.
I tell my kids all the time, if something's free, it's because you're the product.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
And when we go to schools and we say that you're the product, the kids, I think they've heard that a little bit more in the past couple of years, but at first they were mad.
Yeah.
They were like, what?
But when you really
rightfully
explain it.
So.
Yes, for sure.
When you really explain what's actually going on, too, even the ones that kind of know, it puts them even more in the know.
So one of the things
our older son went with her to D.C. as well.
One of the things that was cool is my older son met us up there. He was on his fall break for college, and we had about 40 students from all over. And we
various ages.
We did a couple of things. Yeah, we had like 6th grade to like college age. We had a round table where we invited legislators and policymakers to hear these kids. Some of them gave formal speeches. They were selected to do so because of their, they had a story to tell. They gave formal speeches. They had a press conference with Blumenthal and Blackburn to talk about COSA, which is the Kids Online Safety Act. That's the one that's passed unanimously out of committee in the Senate, and we need to get it to a full floor vote. Spoiler alert, Bill Hagerty is not behind that at this point. So if you would like to rattle his chain and ask him to support COSA and get that passed, we encourage you to reach out to his office. But we were letting the kids, interact with legislators, tell them their stories, why they care about these bills. And then there was a group of kids that got to meet with the White House task force on exploitation. And then the highlight for me was we broke the kids into small groups. So I had 3 public school kids, and we went around and we were basically cold calling these offices. And here's how it would go. I love reenacting this. So I would knock on the door and I would peek my head in, and there, of course, are like 20-something staffers in there. There's no people with power in there, but they do have a lot of power.
Yep.
But we're not seeing the big wigs, And I would just say, hey, I've got some teenagers on the Hill with me for the next couple of days. I would love to introduce them if that's okay. Who's going to say no?
Yeah.
They never
Who
say
says no to kids? Yeah.
So they let them in. The kids have been, we just coached them in basic speaking skills. So they
Just
know
how to share their story.
introduce themselves and shake the hand and ask, is there anybody on your staff that deals with technology? We could have a few minutes of their time. They say, let me check. Then the answer ends up being yes or no. It's probably 50-50. If the answer is yes, that technology staffer is either with us in that room or takes us into a side room. And the students have planned out, okay, who's the anchor, who's sharing the stories, and who's the person who's going to anchor it and say, we need your support to help us, change the landscape for our generation and the generation after us. And by and large, it went incredible. Like these kids, I could see them coming to an understanding, even as we walked in between offices and talked about different things that came up, them realizing like, oh my gosh, I thought that just happened to my sister, but now I'm thinking back that all that stuff happened to me too. I was just not really aware that those people I was blocking, what they were after. So there was all kinds of conversations that were amazing. We got the chance to, get some hard questions. I actually really only had one from a California staffer, and she was to asking the kids, well, what would you say to those who are talking about censorship and not wanting censorship, to be promoted, and that these bills might do that? And that was Bill Haggerty's response back to me as well when I emailed him. But the kids were like a little bit shell-shocked, like, what do we say about that? They kind of lost their place of like, I don't remember. So I had already introduced myself to this young woman as a mentor. And so I could tell they were a little stuck. And so I just turned to her and I said, hey, would you mind if I just mentored the kids through this moment? And she was like, sure, go right ahead. So then I pretended like she wasn't in the room, but I was basically talking to her. And I said to the kids, okay, what you're asking for is for pornography to get off of social media. Pornography is not protected by the First Amendment. It is not protected speech. There's a whole host of obscenity federal law that hasn't been enforced.
Yeah.
And, censorship doesn't apply to that. All right, moving on. So you want age limits. That has nothing to do with censorship either. And so I was basically able to refute it.
Well, and furthermore, you can't go to a newsstand and buy a Playboy if you're not 18.
Right. Yeah.
So
Playboy did try to become like soft porn a couple years ago by taking nudity out.
You can't, but it's substitute adult magazine. I say Playboy because it's the easy term.
Right.
But you can't buy an adult magazine if you're not over 18.
Right.
But you can hop on one of these social media platforms and see all of that.
Right. And so that is something that, as the censorship argument rolls down, it's like empowering these kids to push back, because that sounds intellectual and scary, and maybe they don't know all the answers, and so they freeze. And so teaching them, like, if you're asking for, social media to not be allowed until 16, that has nothing to do with censorship. You stand on that.
Yep.
You own that. And you just say that's irrelevant to our argument. And so I kind of said these things, and we left the office and was like, thank you very much. And all polite. And we kind of turned the corner, and the kids were like, man, you burned her. Like
they started getting really excited. And like she said when they got to like the last, after they finished the last one, a lot of the groups, they were just like, that's the last one? Oh man. They felt like we're actually doing something.
Right.
About the problems.
My kids' friends would be like, oh, burned by a mom.
Mom burned.
We're hanging out with Parents Who Fight, Jesse and Sarah Siegand. They have a lot of great information on their website, parentswhofight.com. We got a little bit of time left with them. I want to ask you guys about red flags when we get back on social media. I saw a post on your website about kids doing TikTok dances in their bedroom alone and what that says to online predators. Hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Got a crash now at Whites Creek, 24 eastbound, right before Old Hickory Boulevard. And we still got pothole patching, slowing folks down for almost an hour going southbound on 65 in Robertson County. The northbound delay is half an hour. Pothole patching there on 65 north and southbound in Robertson County. And, of course, the day's top stories coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Having a fantastic conversation with Parents Who Fight, Jesse and Sarah Siegand. They're helping parents become aware and educated about the dangers of big tech, social media, the red flags that we see. Rodney in Mount Juliet actually has a question for you, Jesse and Sarah. Rodney, you're next on Super Talk.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Great.
I'm doing good. I'm really inspired with what you guys are spreading the word.
Thank
you. Making parents aware of things. My question is have you guys heard the documentary, The Social Dilemma?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
great. It's great for it's coming from tech people who came out of tech and are starting to raise, the warnings about what the problems are and what they created.
Right. Yeah. I guess it was the people who found it and made Facebook and the other platforms.
And they created the like button. Some of them were part of creating the like button, which they realized was a huge problem later.
They were the early engineers.
That hits the dopamine receptors, right?
Right.
Thanks for the call, Rodney. Really appreciate it. Okay, so Social Dilemma is a good jumping off point. And I know there's probably a bunch of content out there. What documentaries would you guys recommend if you're interested in these kind of topics?
Yes, we tell all the parents at our live workshops that watching Childhood 2.0 is their homework.
Childhood 2.0.
Childhood 2.0. That's something that we were featured in, but I don't want you to watch it just because we were featured in it. It was actually done in 2020, right before all the lockdowns. And before it came out, we were like, man, we have no idea. You sign on to do an interview and you're like, what if this sucks? Like when it comes out, because you just don't know. But it is phenomenal. And one of the things that is unique about it is it features the voices of students. And there's really no other documentary out there that really shows them talking about their own experience online. And it's 100% free on YouTube, Childhood 2.0. One of the things that is fascinating about it is it also had basically like a control subject of a woman in her mid-90s who grew up without electricity and running water. And she's talking about the changes that she's seen in her lifetime.
That's fascinating.
And one of the things that it really addresses is how, as parents, you have all these fears about your kids going into the real world. Like, we had our kid going to school in a public bus here in Nashville, and people thought that was like wild, crazy, oh my gosh, But people put a phone in their kid's bedroom. They don't realize what they've given the world access to their kid in their bedroom.
I know. And I want to talk about that, but we got to get to the news real quick. We'll talk about that after the break.
Okay.
All right, hang out with us. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Pothole patching causing delays for both 65 northbound and southbound through Robertson County. Also, closer to Nashville, Whites Creek, you got a crash, 24 eastbound right before an Old Hickory Boulevard. Election 2024, Eva Pilgrim says, is a steady stream of voters in New Hampshire today. 2 Republican presidential candidates remain, Nikki Haley and former President Trump.
The thing that we're hearing from people now is because it's a two-man race, that she could stay in this a little bit longer and be the alternate candidate to Donald Trump and just sort of see if momentum does start to pick up. There's others that have put some pressure on her to have that strong showing here. Kind of no matter what the pundits are saying, she wants to do well here in New Hampshire. She spent a lot of time on the ground.
Trump holding a 22-point lead over Haley in a Suffolk University poll this morning. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, joined by Parents Who Fight, parentswhofight.com, Parents Who Fight on Instagram, Parents Who Fight also on Twitter. Jesse and Sarah Siegand, they're running this organization, educating parents out there about the dangers of big tech, the dangers of social media, and what was supposed to be just an hour conversation is quickly snowballed into 2 hours because I just can't stop talking to you guys. and I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Spending the time here with me. If you're catching us late or if you missed something, we will be podcasting the whole interview on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just search for the Chris Hand Show or 99.7 WTN and share it with your friends. Because I think that's one of the big takeaways that we've kind of come today is like speak up and talk to people that you know and raise these red flags with them about what you're seeing with big tech and what you're seeing with the technology and social media and all that, because it's important.
Yeah, you got to get your people around you.
100%. You have to build your community. One of the things I did want to talk to you about was red flags.
Yeah.
Warning signs.
Yeah.
What should parents be looking for?
Well, one of the things that predators are looking for is videos of your kid dancing on TikTok in their bedroom because it shows them that they have access to the internet without parents around. They're looking for opportunity. And so, we've heard other law enforcement officers talk about making your kid a hard target. Once your kid is old enough to be on social media, so what we hope is upper high school, you need to make sure that they know all of the ways to avoid even interacting with, whether it's like a Bitcoin account that is like, oh, we promise blah, blah, blah. This happened a lot for my older son. It's like teaching them they want something from you. They're making connections, not because they actually want to help you as a 17-year-old get rich.
It's not an Ethiopian prince.
Yes, it's total manipulation. And so teaching your kids not to have public accounts, making sure that you're locking that stuff down when they're of an age. But if they're young and they're, posting things that show them in their pajamas, in their bedroom, all that we can assume is there's a parent not involved in that situation. We tell parents not to have their devices in their rooms at all, not just to protect them from harmful people, but to protect their sleep, to protect their brain. So that's a big thing, is like watching out for what kinds of content is being fed to your kid. Look at that algorithm. If they're on social media, go into the search bar with them present and type in A and watch what populates. Then type in B. This is the alphabet test. And you're just seeing, what does the algorithm think they are going to type? What are they predicting or sending them to? And if there's problematic content in any of those letters, you can do things like, follow the University of Alabama.
Start searching
you
for
start
things in
cleansing their algorithm. It's a lot of work. It's super annoying. But if your kid has unknowingly gone down a rabbit hole on social media for 15 minutes one day, they could be paying the price for months after, because the algorithm has so much weight to it. So there are things that you can do shoulder to shoulder.
The alphabet test?
Yes, the alphabet test.
That's fascinating.
Shoulder to shoulder with your kid. Like you're not going to get in trouble for anything that shows up here unless you're doing something illegal, like selling drugs. But I need to see, I can't help you navigate this if I have zero idea what's happening in your feed. And so, that's why we don't want kids to wait till they're on the college campus to open the Instagram account. We want that shoulder to shoulder time, because it's a very perilous landscape. So they need your training.
Yeah, and we do the no devices and things like that in your room until right before the last 3 to...
We did it over the summer before going off to
last
college.
3 months,
because
we put everything in. Here's a laptop, because you're going to be in a dorm,
Yeah, you got to learn how to, buffer yourself from the lure of the devices.
What benefits have you seen from the way you guys have done it? Like what fruits have you seen, and what wins have you celebrated because of the route you've taken?
I think we have personal wins with our 2 kids. It's hardly a scientific sample with 2 kids, right?
Fair enough, but anecdotally.
Right. But our oldest actually just wrote an essay about going completely without a phone for a month, partly because he wants to win $10,000. But he said, I would do it. I would do it even without that, because he's realizing how difficult just the lure of his smartphone has become. We have a couple of kids who are part of our, I say kids, they're young adults, freshmen in college who have decided themselves to ditch their smartphone, and they have flip phones now.
Good
These
for
two
them.
brave young adults.
They get enough messaging on their computer and everything's all tied in anyway. So it's like, why keep having all
Right.
messaging and attention grabbing distractions everywhere you go?
Yeah. And then with our youngest, it's like, we're seeing him. He doesn't have social media yet. And he's 17 and he is in the college search process and he's an artist. So there's a lot of like, okay, when is it time to cross that, that threshold? But the awesome thing is we're having very mature conversations with the 17-year-old about it. I'm not fighting with my 13-year-old who's throwing a conniption fit because their brain has so far to go before they can even understand the risks. And one of the things that we talk about is if a student sits down and does a PowerPoint presentation for you about all the reasons why they think they're ready for social media, and none of those reasons include awareness of the dangers, they are not ready. And the parent is not ready. So it's like watching Childhood 2.0 together, it will bring up a lot of mature topics. And for us and our kids, it's like we can really talk about anything. And we sit down, we talk about pornography all the time, just over dinner conversation. We talk about all of these things. And so I feel like, our kids, the one thing they can take away, they may not be completely out of the woods of like, it's so annoying to have parents who do this. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about having parents who teach all of your friends' parents how to lock stuff down.
Don't worry. My daughter's 10 and she's already learning that. So I'll be like, you can't watch that. She's like, let me guess, Dad. It's woke trash. I'm like, yep, it is.
Right, so we make it all in fun, but I think it's like they're at the place where they're like, I don't necessarily love it, but I appreciate it. And they have seen, it's like with anything, you take the little turn and you watch how it plays out over years, and they're able to see the difference between where they're at and the things that they've been exposed to versus their friends. The internet's not going to be without exposure. You are not going to be able to lock your kid in a room and keep them from understanding some of these things.
There's this Jesse Peterson thing where he's talking about a Sleeping Beauty. He says Maleficent isn't mad because there was a baby shower. She's mad she wasn't invited.
Right.
And because she wasn't invited, she stormed the gates.
Right.
So you're going to have to invite some evil in to be able to have these conversations.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's going to storm the gates.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to start young. I was going to point that out, that as young as you can start having these conversations. I understand if the cat's already out of the bag, we encourage people to just start doing something. It's better to do something than nothing about this fight. But it's as early as you can start with your kids and training and teaching them and having these conversations. That's why we've had a lot more wins, because we started early.
Yeah. And the community wins are the ones that honestly mean the most to me. When I was talking at a church a couple weekends ago and I was thinking to, how many of our students in our youth group have social media, and it was really, it's like all, juniors and seniors, maybe even just seniors, and maybe one or two other kids. Like, we're going there as a community, and we've kept a lot of kids in a more mature place to be able to handle big tech. So to me, that's one of the biggest wins.
I love it. Well, all right. So give me some starting points. We talked about Childhood 2.0 is a good documentary. Social Dilemma is a good documentary. Jesse had mentioned another one.
Brain Heart World by Fight the New Drug is specific to the dangers of pornography to your brain, like the brain science behind it, to your relationships. The heart part is your relationships within love or friendship, how it impacts that, and world is the society, how it is impacting society, trafficking, etc. So all those are really great.
Childhood 2.0, Brain Heart World. What about reading? Is there any books that you would recommend?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Christian family, the TechWise family is one of our top recommendations. By Andy Crouch. He also, his daughter, who at 19 wrote a companion one called My TechWise Life. So if you're like, is my teenager ready for social media? Have them read that book. If they're old enough to read that book and understand what she unpacks, then that's a good litmus test. Our friends at Wired Human, Jason and Lisa Frost, wrote The Glass Between Us, which has phenomenal research and all the reasons why we want to tie the values that we have as a family to the way that we interact with the internet.
And they're the ones that do a lot of the work with youth, bringing the youth on the Hill. They're the ones that sponsored that and do that with raising the student voice.
Yeah.
And I'll brag on my wife so she doesn't have to do it. She won't do it. But she has a great book called Smart Girl, Stupid World, Choosing Right in a World Gone Wrong. That is for young women coming of age, young girls from older teenage years. Check it out first as a mom or whoever, a leader is going to use it as a tool. You can use it one-on-one mentoring or groups, and it's great.
I just want to thank you both for coming in here. Like when we originally discussed this, was like, oh, we could probably do 20 minutes. Maybe could you guys do an hour? And then you get here, we do an hour. It's like I might call Murphy and be like, can I get an extra hour of your show? Because these guests are so amazing. It's Jesse and Sarah Siegand. The organization is Parents Who Fight. If you don't want your kids consumed by big tech, go to parentswhofight.com. The resources there are invaluable. If you have a chance to go to one of their workshops, I highly recommend it. I learned a lot at your workshop, and I consider myself pretty savvy. And I found myself going, oh, I didn't know that.
Thank you.
Oh, I didn't know that. I like to think that I'm in the weeds on a lot of this stuff, that I'm in the fight. But
the internet is a million billion things.
I kept learning more and more, and I just want to thank you guys. You're always welcome here. If you missed anything from the show today with Jesse and Sarah, we are going to be podcasting the episode, so you can find it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll tweet it out at Chris Hand on Air. And again, parentswhofight.com. Jesse and Sarah Siegand, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
this was great.
We're going to do it again.
Let's do it again.
Yes.
We are going to do it again. I want to hear what happens at that Senate hearing. I want to touch base with you guys after all that.
Part 2.
Yes, exactly. Part 2 on the way. Parentswhofight.com. Go check these guys out. Parents Who Fight on Twitter, Parents Who Fight on Instagram. And we're going to be hearing more from you guys. I feel like this is just the beginning. Parents need to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Paul Winkler Inc. If you've heard any of the show today, you know you plan ahead for your children's safety. You plan ahead to keep them safe. Do you plan ahead for their financial future? Do you plan ahead for your financial future? Well, I wasn't planning ahead for our financial future, perfectly honest with you. But I am now because I linked up with Paul and his team at Paul Winkler Inc. My wife and I are so happy we did. Now, Paul and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required. Because of that, government regulators require that I tell you I'm paid whenever this commercial airs. That's the truth. But that's not why I decided to become a client. I decided to become a client because I'm impressed with Paul. He's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do, and he can break it down for a guy like me to understand. Plus, nothing Paul's team does is done on commission, so when I know that they're making decisions for my financial future, not theirs, that's really reassuring because nothing is done on commission. He can make your financial goals way more realistic by explaining what to do and why, just like he did for me. And the investment education they provide is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. You should check these guys out. Every single office is run by a degree planner with over 20 years of experience, and you can feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest because of that experience. It just equals confidence for them and for you. Do what I did. Talk to his team today. Set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com or call 615-851-1950. 11:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Joined in the studio by Matt Murphy. What up, dude?
Sorry.
Don't worry, Max got you.
Blocked myself out there.
Max
Hello.
Maury. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I was going to talk about politics. I ended up talking about big tech and kids for a couple hours.
I heard some of that. That is, I can't imagine being a parent in 2024.
It's hard.
I mean, I can't imagine being a parent, but
I think the hardest part is like we're raising kids now in a world that we know nothing about. Like I grew up, I didn't have the internet until I was 12.
Right. And, you know, I saw I guess it was an article or something or another about this, where we have a reference point that doesn't involve cell phones. I have a reference point that doesn't involve, I mean, hell, cable television.
Yeah.
I have a reference point that doesn't involve all of this immediate gratification, social media. And young people today do not have that reference point, and it's changing their minds.
And there's kids that are going to grow up that won't be able to remember life without a smartphone.
I was thinking last night about some of this. I do not believe that our society is going to repair itself with social media in our lives in the fashion that it is. And I don't believe that we're willing to give up social media. I believe that most individuals, if they think about it long enough, realize that social media generally, well, social media specifically and the internet more broadly is more of a negative than it is a positive in our lives. But I don't think that matters because I think we are addicted to it. In the same way that people are addicted to drugs.
But don't you feel like that is that's like almost the same argument that you could say with anything? Like it's a tool. It depends on how you wield it.
Mm-hmm. And then one would say, well, then we just need to regulate it. Well, who gets to do that? The same government that we don't trust?
Fair enough. But, you know, the left makes that argument about firearms, you know? I think that you can use the internet personally as a much more net positive than a negative.
And see, I'm thinking more, for me, it's more of how it is changing human beings in our brains than how we use it in our lives.
There's always hope for an electromagnetic pulse, you know?
If you gave me the power, I would turn off the internet right now.
Well, Obama made an internet kill switch. Did you know that?
I mean, I would turn it off and watch the number of people who had no internet 20 years ago go out and kill people because they don't have internet today. And you tell me that it's not an addictive quality? It's not an addictive thing in our lives? I mean, if I turn the internet off today, you don't think there'd be riots? Do you think there'd be riots?
I think probably 2 days.
Yeah, I think there'd be rioting.
Yeah. People wouldn't know what to do.
It did not exist 20 years ago.
It's crazy, right?
And there would be rioting.
Yeah.
And so I would suggest to you that it is an addiction that is as dangerous as any drug ever devised by man. That's my take. But I'm having a pretty down week, so.
That's spicy, though. I like it.
I mean, it's all good. Who's your go-to for VP? Have we talked about this?
I like Tucker, baby.
I think Vivek.
You're more of a
Vivek's my number two now.
Okay.
Vivek's my number two.
All right. I got something that's going to change your mind. Tim Scott was ready to run through a brick wall last night.
I mean, he's my number one.
Did you hear him?
He's my number one.
Did you hear him?
He's
Biden and his...
hold on. That ain't it. Where'd it go? Mac, vouch for me. Tim Scott was ready to run through a brick wall.
Oh, dude, it was hype.
All right.
Macho Man Tim Scott.
If you want 4 more years of Donald Trump, let me hear you scream.
See, Ben Carson could never do that. Ben Carson could never do that.
That's not in his DNA.
If you want the race to be over tomorrow, let me hear you scream.
That makes me giggle.
How many of y'all want 4 more years of low inflation under Donald Trump?
Yeah!
How many of y'all want 4 more years of low crime and high law and order
He's engaged.
under Donald J.
That's why
Trump?
he's so hyped.
That's a marriage made for the U.S. Naval
How many
Observatory
y'all
right there.
Want me to stop talking so you can hear from your next president, Donald J. Trump. 4 more years.